my goal here is to keep a record of how this piece of artwork is coming together. And the first thing I've done is to have my friend Keith Doucette of East Greenwich High School fabricate this. I hesitate to call it a frame, but that's actually what it is. It is a frame made from oak. And what I've done for the past couple of days is I've tried staining it with tea to age it. And I have to admit, I kind of like the result. This is what it looked like originally. It's unfinished. It's meant to be left unfinished because I wanted to have a look of maybe a piece of wood that, or a structure that you might find in a barn, in natural and aged looking. So I think the time I've put into staining this, which was a lot of time, took many coats, probably at least 20 coats of tea to accomplish this. Let's see. This is the tea that I used to stain the wood. It's an interesting concoction. It's just water and tea. I've used a lot of tea bags on this to get it nice and dark. Like I said before, it requires to use a lot of a buildup of a lot of layers on the wood to get it to that dusty brown that the wood is represents right now. I like using the tea. It does require a lot of work, but in the end you're using a non-caustic material that's easy to use, and the cleanup is almost none. Your paintbrush can be laid down overnight and it doesn't stick. It's ready to use the next day. So I'm thinking on maybe just keeping this around for a while. I might be interested to see what other woods look like if I use this on them. The next thing is to work on these 5 pieces of pine, create patterns on this pine that will, the patterns will be left up to chance. A formula will be created, and what will happen is I'll put, this is a sample. This is a piece of pine, represents the same wood that I'm going to be using in this piece of art. This is a sample I did some time ago. I wanted to see how the materials interacted with the wood and how easy it was or how difficult it was to paint on it. I've used a number of different art medium on this. It's pastels, oil pastels, chalks, crayons. I think I used some acrylic paints just to see how they react. It's a similar pattern that I may or may not use on this piece, but I just needed to do this to be able to get an idea of how things were going to work out and how things were going to look. And when those pieces of wood are painted to the way I like, I will slide them into the slots. Yep, slide them into the slots. Okay, sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulty getting the wood into the slots, but those 5 pieces of wood will slide into the slots that are in the frame, and what will happen is each one of those 5 pieces of wood will have a different design on it that will be able to be rearranged by taking the wood out of the frame and rearranging the wood. So the idea is that you can have a painting that can change by the whims of the viewer. So this is all based on an artist named John Cage, who was a famous composer post-World War II, and his work was carried on to his visual arts as well, based on random chance. This is a lot of represents a lot of the work I've been doing as well. I like the idea of letting materials dictate what the final images are going to be. So requires a little work and a little forethought, but in the end usually something good comes of it. So you get an idea of how the image might look, or how it might not look, based on this little sample. Just trying to make a record of this, so I can actually understand what I'm doing as well. But I think it helps the viewer as well after they see the end piece. So we'll try to keep a visual record of this as I move along.